Nick Adderley, Northamptonshire Police Chief Constable, has vowed to root out bad apples from the force in a strategy to protect women and girls from violence in order to regain public's trust after the death of Sarah Everard. He says he wants to make the county a safer place, but admits there is a need to rebuild public trust and confidence. Remember, this is the same guy who said during COVID that the force was only a few days away from marshalling supermarkets and checking items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's a legitimate necessary item. So that seems like coercive behaviour, if you ask me. Isn't that what he says he wants to put a stop to? But only for women. Adderley says he will not tolerate predatory and misogynistic behaviour within the force, while the working environment must be respectful and inclusive of all sexes. So where's the not tolerating misogynistic or misandry within the force if it's to be respectful and inclusive for all sexes? It doesn't sound very inclusive to me, Mr. Adderley. Detective Chief Inspector Nicky Deeks, Northamptonshire Police's lead for tackling violence against women and girls, said, "The Chief Constable has very clear expectations of officers and staff and will not stand for unacceptable behaviour. We have robust measures in place to deal with poor professional standards. We want the public to feel reassured, and we have confidence that we will do our very best for them. We want victims to feel supported at every step." Deeks added, "We have plans to increase our work with women's groups to ensure we listen to the voices of women and girls, particularly victims from black and minoritised groups." Why? Why make a point of pointing out black and minority women? You see, every statement the police make is designed by a PR department and is so full of wokeness and virtue signalling, it's practically sickening. Why does the statement simply not say, "We have plans to increase our work with women's groups to ensure we listen to the voices of all women and girls in our force area"? I mean, even that discriminates against men. Never can the police simply say they are going to do something for the benefit of the entire community. It has to be broken down for fucking brownie points and mention the individual groups. It's pathetic. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by violence and abuse, including rape and sexual offences, which currently in law, rape can only be carried out by men, but abuse can be carried out by both males and females. Domestic abuse, honour-based abuse, which is generally carried out by certain cultures, not the British culture, can affect both men and women. Stalking and harassment, which again can be perpetrated by both men and women. So basically, rape is the only crime that can, by the definition of law, be carried out by men only, based on the fact that the Sexual Offences Act 2003 legislation, Section 1, states that a person, A, commits an offence if A, he intentionally penetrates the vagina, anus or mouth of another person, B, with his penis, B, does not consent to the penetration, and A, does not reasonably believe that B consents. So rather than dealing with the issue as a whole, they're more intent on virtue signalling to certain demographics whilst discriminating against others. I mean, if a girl flutters her eyelids at a bloke on a train, a bloke might have a partner or might not be interested in a woman, but it's generally flattering. But do you think if a man called British Transport Police to say that a woman has just been staring at him on the train and fluttered her eyelids, is going to get the same kind of response than if a woman called? No, it won't. He'll probably get laughed at. All of this behaviour by police and government is creating a society where people are afraid to meet people of the other sex, making it harder for people to form relationships with others because they're scared to initiate first contact in case they pick some good-looking, indoctrinated, self-styled activist belonging to BLM or Extinction Rebellion. Although they might be good-looking, their smell would probably give them away, as many of them are soap dodgers. But the fact remains, the powers that be are trying to divide further still. The communities they hold power over into smaller and smaller fractions who are more concerned about fighting against each other than fighting the crux of the problem, those who are forcing the societal changes on us. And, as if to prove my point about women being just as bad as men, I found a report today about a 45-year-old woman who was arrested by Staffordshire Police who was filmed repeatedly following, touching and kissing children. Now, if a man had done this, you would expect him to to be charged with a sexual offence and slapped with a sexual harm prevention order at the very least, based on this new narrative that all men are bad. But this woman was simply arrested on suspicion of using threatening behaviour to cause distress. In my opinion, the wrong reason for the arrest, and she wasn't even charged with it. Charges were dropped. All they have given her for the stalking and sexual abuse was a community protection order. Imagine the outrage if it was a man who was let off for following, touching or kissing kids. Talk about normalising kiddie fiddling. This is the crazy fucked up world we live in now because of the virtue signalling and wokeness permeating through the organisations that run this country.